So I wanted to talk about, because these past couple of weeks, one of the dividing issues for our nation, for the United States of America, has been that of abortion. And a few weeks ago, New York, I'm sure you've heard of the law that they passed where they're allowing abortion up until even the point of the time for birth, and the reasons they're doing that is because it could be like just any health issue, and they don't really dive into detail what that means, and that could mean a lot of things. But a lot of people are either upset about it or they're praising New York for it, and it's kind of sad. In the United States in 2019, such a civilized country, and we're doing stuff like killing babies. In the Old Testament, there was a god named Moloch, who was the god of the Ammonites. And, back then, God commanded the Israelites to wipe out every nation around them. He had given those nations around 400 years while Israel was in captivity in Egypt to repent and come to Him. But after 400 years, they hadn't, so He was using Israel to bring justice to them. And one of those people were the Ammonites, and they celebrated this god named Moloch. And what they would do to celebrate him, to have a good harvest, they would have his idol, and I'll put a picture up here, just so you can get an idea what he looked like. But he had like a bull's head, and he had a human torso. And what they would do is they would heat up this idol. They'd put a fire beneath him so that this idol that was made of metal was glowing red hot. And I apologize for the wind. There's a little bit of breeze coming in, but this is North Dakota, and that's what happens in North Dakota. So hopefully it's not too bad. But they would heat up this idol until it was glowing red, and this idol would have his hands out in front of him. And what they would do is they would set their infants into the hands of this red hot idol, and they would sacrifice their live baby, and they'd be watching and hearing their baby screaming in pain and crying, and they'd be smelling. You can just imagine the smells coming from burning flesh. And they would do this all so that they would have a good harvest. Now this is in the Old Testament, and so this is a couple thousand years ago at least. And coming to more recent times, down in Peru, they found these mass graves of children. And they believe this happened around 500 years ago. This native tribe there, they found these mass graves with children that were buried with llamas, and each one of these children had the same mark across their abdomen, where they had something sharp thrust into their abdomen, and then they were killed. They were sacrificed, and I'll link a article down here in the bottom here of the video, but they did this, they believe, because the area at the time was flooding, and so they were sacrificing their kids, and for some reason burying them with llamas, so that the flooding and the rain would stop. And that was 500 years ago. And now, when you hear that, you're like, man, that's kind of gruesome. That's gross. That's sad and gross, and just kind of like an ugly thing to hear. But we think, if you go and look at what happens during an abortion. Like if you go to a second trimester abortion, what they do is they take these prongs, these little grippers with teeth at the end, and they just start ripping pieces of the baby out of the mom. And so they're ripping off legs, they're ripping off arms, they're ripping off the head, they're ripping off just pieces of the body, and then they're putting it on the table beside them, counting out the pieces so that they make sure that they don't leave any of those pieces behind, so there's no infection in the mother. And when you hear how this process is done, then you think, man, that's not much different than how they sacrifice to that god Moloch, or how these people in Peru 500 years ago sacrificed their kids for the gods to stop sending rain and flooding the area. And the sad thing is, here in the United States, we're a civilized country, and we're like, well, we don't worship gods. But in reality, a lot of times for abortions, they do it for choice. That's the argument, that they want the choice to be able to do that. And if you look at the statistics, the CDC put out a report in 2015, and it says the abortions for the reason of rape or incest, if that was the cause of the pregnancy and the reason it was being aborted, that was less than 2% of all abortions done. And then another less than 2% of the abortions done were because the mother was in trouble with the pregnancy, that was putting her life at risk. And so about 95% of the abortions, according to the CDC report in 2015, I'm assuming we'll get another report here in 2020, but 95% of the abortions were due to choice, because the parents didn't want their daughter to have a kid yet, or the boyfriend didn't want the girlfriend to have it, or they just felt like they couldn't support a baby financially, or they just weren't ready. All because of choice. So here we are in the United States in 2019, and we're sacrificing kids for the God of choice. And when you look at that, then those people back in the past times, 500 years ago and a couple thousand years ago, the Ammonites, what we're doing is not much different here in the United States of America in 2019. And that's very sad. And I hope this video, if you're watching this, that this will cause you just to go and do some more research about abortion, and don't just take the word of any politicians or the news or anything, but do some actual factual research yourself, just to see what the whole process is and to see if you agree with it. And make sure that you're actually understanding the whole process of what it takes to go through an abortion. But yeah, that's just the challenge. My voice, I don't know if it's the cold air, but my voice is not working correctly right now. Well, that's just the challenge that I have for you right now. So if you're watching this, go do that. If you can just go and do more research about what the whole process is of an abortion, then this video will be successful. But with that, guys, I hope you have a great day. I'm gonna head back. I have probably a 15-minute hike back to the car, probably about between half a mile to a mile away from the car. My fingers are getting cold too. But with all of that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day or rest of the week, and that the Lord will bless you in this time. With that, be blessed. Thanks.